Good afternoon. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are y'all?
I'm
Jeff,
good.
how are you?
I'm
You
good.
good?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm figuring out how to
Living the
sleep on
dream?
the side of the world. Yes, sir. I'm gonna have lumpia later. I know that make you jealous. So
I mean, it really does. We were talking about it before we aired, and I was talked to my wife about it, told her what I was getting, and she just looked at me. I said, "I'm bringing some home." She has she has an aunt that makes it, and apparently we're not live on Facebook. We're only live on YouTube and StreamYard.
I, I don't know what
Yay.
happened there, but yeah.
Nope. It says they're having a problem.
Okay.
Um, so anyway, can't help their problems. It is what it is.
Yep. Uh, So it's a Facebook thing. It's not
Yep.
us. Okay.
From what I can see.
All right.
Look, this one right here. This one caught me right here. Ohatchee Creek 1. Things are good in Ohatchee. It's a little known fact. I actually grew up in Ohatchee. And you don't see people from Ohatchee or people that know where it is too terribly often. So that's pretty
All
awesome.
right. Okay.
Let's see. Cody says, Happy New Year from everyone. Hello from Saipan, from
Yeah, there's
George.
George and Saipan. I haven't heard from
Yeah.
them in a while.
Yeah, it has been a while. Let's
Uh,
see. Kelly's here.
yeah.
Half a day from Ethan.
Uh,
Let's see.
is Ethan gonna sneak over to the Philippines in a week or so and see us?
Yeah, I hope so. That
I
would be
hope
cool.
it'd be great to put a face to a name, shake a hand, whatever we do.
Okay, now this person right here, I need to find out who this is because this person knows me. Not very many people know that I got shot by a bow and arrow.
Uh,
So that's funny. Let's see. I need to see your round heads. I'd love to see a good round head. Dougie's got Country up there with him. Country stopped by here this morning and got Dougie's feed. He made
okay.
a delivery. So today, to this show, Eric Carter. I now know exactly who that is. Man, ain't that name? It's been a while. Um, that's funny.
Okay.
This show all came about because one of our friends, Frank Bradley, wanted me to help publicize that somebody had did a really, really good job at ripping off his profile. I mean, if that's like really a thing, but it is apparently. So I'm going to share one of my screens, and I think it'll only let me share one at a time.
That's so good.
Yeah, that's not good. Let me find another more better layout. Uh,
You're almost there.
yeah.
No. There you go.
Boom. Here we go.
There you go.
All right. So now I've got to pull this double screen so I can see what I can see and show you guys. So, there's sadly, we live in a world where people are freaking scamming rooster people, which is ridiculous. But this guy right here, um, let's see, let me get my screen adjusted where y'all can see him. There we go. All right. That right there is not Frank Bradley. The only thing They both got brown hair. That's it. Um, now,
Well, we don't even have a picture of the scammer. So that's an old picture of Frank.
yeah,
You
when
know,
he was like probably 20.
depends on the time of year. You know,
Well,
yeah,
that's true too.
but right.
Because
So
sometimes he
yes,
takes no shave November to an extreme.
yeah. I mean, he's not going to shave through the winter, and then
Mm.
he'll hack it all off in the spring when it gets hot. It's okay.
But so this right here, this person has gotten a lot of views. 153,000, 35,000. Then you look at some of these others, um, like this one right here. Frank wasn't at the Ohio National, so he was at the APA show in Tennessee,
Yeah,
Knoxville, but
yeah.
he wasn't at the Ohio National.
But he didn't
But
show. He only came down to visit friends, right?
right,
Yeah. So
but you can see a lot of these videos. I mean, and scammers do this. They get the pictures, they snag everything off of that person's site
yeah,
that they want to be because you know $180 for a dozen eggs plus shipping seems like a lot, but quality eggs, that's not a bad price. But Frank, he'll flat out tell you he don't do jack on TikTok. His real TikTok doesn't even have these 4,400 followers that this person has. So, that's not him. He's in one place only, where he does any kind of anything, and that's on Facebook. And this is his real Facebook profile. Notice the blue dot with the check. For you to get that, you have to upload a copy of your ID. And the reason they make you pay for it, if you will, is because you also have to upload a credit card that is linked to the address information on your ID. That's their way of verifying you really are who you say you are when you get that verified account designation. So when you're looking at foul and you see somebody's post, if they're not verified, I'm not saying that should be an immediate no, but if you don't know for certain that is who that person is, do some homework. I mean, we're not talking about a $10 chicken. We're talking about a $200 dozen eggs, and God only knows how much the guy on TikTok scammed people out of. And this is just one example. It's just one example. Um, when he asked to share that, I was like, of course, but I also felt like it was a good opportunity to educate guys about that, because if you're watching this show and you don't want good quality fowl, I would be totally shocked. And sometimes we do a lot to get those fowl. And I don't want anybody to get scammed. Now, I understand that sometimes we might not tell our spouse or significant other what we might have paid for a bird. And that's just like sharing the feed bill. But, make sure you get what you pay for. Like this that Cody says, he's not verified, but he's got references. And that's another thing for people. I see some post in some of the groups that where somebody will post a screenshot and they'll say, "Do you know this person? Anybody worked with this person?" Do that, but don't listen to everybody that says, "Oh yeah, it's a great person, it's a great person," because a lot of times these scammers, they work in a group. and there's other people that have vouched for them, and for all you know, it could be the same person. So only take vouches from somebody that you know. What Kelly does is he said he gets their phone number so he can call them. It usually ends there, probably so. Another thing you can do is, if you're really curious, FaceTime them. You know, hey, before I hit send on this Cash App, will you FaceTime me? And so I could, see what I'm getting. That's one thing. Or ask them about their NPIP. And most people, they're not going to have any issues telling you their NPIP. And you can actually go to the NPIP database by Googling it and look it up. See if it all matches the address, everything they're giving you. It's ridiculous that you have to do some homework this day and age, but they want your money just as much as you do. And if you want to hang on to it, then you're going to have to do some work. No, we're not both there now. I will be, he is, and I will be in about a week and a half. And yeah, always demand a video call, because a lot of them post a stupid amount of videos. Like if you go back over to this person's TikTok, they done ripped off a bunch of his videos. And I know a couple other people have been scammed. It really does suck. I hate it. He had several people contacting him, asking questions, because they had been scammed because they thought this was him. But they do a lot to make it look real. They have the same post. I mean, he's even got a picture of him and his wife. A couple of them. Yeah, and recent. But another thing is when you've got somebody that's like Frank, who he's got a status. I mean, he has quality. He breeds for perfection. His birds are solid, and people know that. So if you got somebody with that reputation, but they're like a used car salesman trying to sell you some birds, that should be a red flag.
Well, this is my experience, but guys like John Anthony Marks, Frank Bradley, other, like really good breeders, right? Is they're never going to sell you a bird unless you have visited their yard. Okay. If you haven't seen their birds, you haven't met them in person, you haven't shook their hand, if you don't have an established relationship, you are not buying anything, right? You ain't buying nothing. After the first meeting and all that, yeah, then you can call him up, right? Because you'll have his cell phone number. You can call him up and you can talk about birds and chipping and whatever. But, Frank don't chip. The people who buy his birds, they drive in and they pick them up on site, right? So he's not a shipper, and that's the case with a lot of these better breeders, right? You if they would chip them, it's only going to be to somebody that they know and trust, and that only comes from doing an on-farm visit. So, and you know what? Me personally, if I'm going to spend 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 on a trio or on birds, I want to go hold them. I want to go look at them. I want to,
Yeah.
I am not buying nothing blindly, from somebody's Facebook post. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
I will say, that's a lot of that should be on the person, but nobody wants to admit that they got screwed or scammed.
I know.
But it's from being, like I said, we're all eager and in search for great fowl. Period.
Well, somebody asked about Frank on Strictly Game Fowl about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. Hey, anybody know this guy, right? I answered him. I said, "Yep, good guy, but unless you know him or you have purchased from him in the past or you go to visit him, right? He does not sell birds, right? He has a limited number of people that get birds off of his yard. Okay, very
Yeah.
very limited. So
And I mean, like right now, he's got a bird that's a cull for him that he's offering up to some of his subscribers.
yeah,
And you know, which I will say, I'm only going to show that for a second so people can see. Yeah, I'll admit I am one of his subscribers. He
yeah, me
posts some good information there in the subscriber hub,
does.
and a lot of those guys, they do their giveaways and their sales and stuff like that only for their subscribers. And it's another way for you to know that you're not getting scammed or screwed. And there I've heard people say, "Oh, I wouldn't pay 99 cents a month." Really? I
Yeah, it,
mean,
it cost me $1.05, right?
yeah,
Because of
it's a
taxes,
dollar and change.
right?
And I guarantee you, if we tracked our finances, we would find that we blow way more than $10 a month on stuff that we never get anything from. And at least from subscribing to him for that $1.05 a month or whatever it works out with your taxes, he drops nuggets. But again, that's another way you can help identify a scammer versus reality. And right here, it is insane the number of fake accounts on TikTok. And they there's people out there. Scamming is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Um, it's a thing because people fall for it. So do your homework, and yeah, it is what it is. Don't be scammed by somebody sitting in some foreign country with a non-extradition. You can't even get in trouble for it. Frank went to the feds and reported this, and he still can't even get the guy's profile taken off of TikTok. And he's actually reported it himself and said, "This is not me." And it says it's me. And they're like, "Okay, whatever. Good luck." So,
Do you actually
we,
think TikTok cares?
no, because they make money off those commercials more so than what they pay the people that are monetized. So that they don't care. They're getting stupid rich. And the more views the better. And like that one video had a lot of views on it. So that's where they get their money from.
Yep.
So if anybody else has any tips or anything that they've seen, um, feel free to drop it in the comment section and all of that. Ryan. Um, Ryan is looking to get eggs shipped to Hawaii. That's fun. That takes more than NPIP. Um,
Really?
but I would yes. You have to do the paperwork like you're importing and exporting to send them to Hawaii. It's pretty stupid
Uh,
at what it takes. But
wow.
I have shipped to Hawaii with successful hatch rates a couple times. It's funny, but yeah, not only can people in places like Hawaii and Guam not get feed that's worth of crap, they can't get hatching stock either.
Hmm.
It takes a lot. Yeah, I mean, he says they're very strict, and he's putting it lightly.
Yeah.
Let's see. A lot of times you can look at the pictures and the profile, the background never match up. That's very true. And you can tell that is one thing that I've seen quite a few of them do. Um, they post pictures of really good looking birds, but if you look at the picture and not just the bird, you can tell it's not on the same farm. That'd be like me posting pictures of birds with my farm and then, Jin Jin's farm and, farms all over the place that obviously are not my farm. But yeah, they'll do whatever. And sadly it works. Um this is fun. Matt likes to have fun with them. And if I'm bored, I do too. Ask them misleading questions. And, like if they say, do the pure hatch always come with white legs? And, they're going to say, yeah, the ones I have all have white legs. Well, if you know what a hatch looks like, that should also be a red flag. Because mine don't have white legs. See, then, Ryan notices that too, that there's a lot of them. Probably the most common thing is going to be the backgrounds and the pictures don't match. I would also, what I like to do too, is look at how old the profile is, or look at the pictures and the videos. Like, how it'll show when they were posted. Check that out and see if they were all posted like within the same hour or two or day. If I looked at a site that said it was Frank Bradley's and he's got a pin post from December the 14th. And if I scrolled through 15, 20 different things and they were all posted on that same day, that'd be a red flag. That's not his post. That's not his page. It should be to anybody. I mean, those are probably the big ones. And I encourage people also to report those profiles when you find them. Sometimes it works. I think if enough people report the fake profile, that it adversely affects their position in the algorithm, which is great. So do whatever you can to report them. Also, there's a couple of really big game fowl specific groups, and no matter what foul it is, when you find somebody that's scamming folks, take a screenshot of their profile. Like when they're a scammer, take a screenshot of their profile and post it in those groups. Hey, this person is a scammer. Also ask them about sending them a money order or sending them cash. Because the reality is a lot of these scammers, Frank's in Kentucky. They ain't in Kentucky. And that person's in a third world country somewhere. That's why they get away with it so much. So they're not going to give you their address to send them a money order to. And I mean, let's think about it. If, Jeff lives up in the north, but if he's scamming me out of 500,000, whatever he's charging me for the trio, is he going to give me an address to mail the cash to? If they do that, that's a really stupid scammer because all post offices have camera systems. They can just, I mean, if you send it to a PO box and you get scammed, they can get that video and see who checked the mail. There's ways to find that out. So that's a really good one, Cody. And it makes perfect sense. Because if I was doing something shady, I'm not going to give you my address, tell you where to send them to come get me. So
Yeah, Frank's guy was going to do something at a Walmart parking lot.
MoneyGram.
Yeah,
I think he said something about doing a MoneyGram or something, or meeting him at a Walmart parking lot.
Yeah, in Richmond, Virginia. So he narrowed it down to the Richmond region, or Richmond County, Virginia. So then he called the police and give them the profile and all that.
And hope for the best.
Yeah,
the part that really sucks about that is there's so many people out there trying to make an honest living, and so many people out there that just want to raise some chickens and makes enough money to cover their feed. That industry does not need scammers. It messes it up for the honest people. And I don't know. I wish if a lot of people put forth the effort into scamming as they did actually working a job, they'd probably make more money. Because some of these scams are really elaborate. And it had to take time to figure it out. I don't know. There's got to be some questions, I know.
Yeah, it's just sad,
It really is. Just stolen photos are probably the big thing. Also, another thing is if somebody says, it's going to cost this to ship, and then a shipping, let's say they do get you, and then you get a text message from a shipping company that says they need money to. I seen one, somebody was posting a while back. They said something about needing a tariff to cross the line, and I'm like, it ain't coming from China. Like, these people were going from one state to another, but they were trying to get the person to pay for crossing the state line. Well, you don't have to pay that. I mean, my God, I took a pallet worth of boxes to UPS today. If I had to pay a tariff for each one of those that crossed the state line, I'd be screwed, because I think only 2 of them were going to Alabama. The rest of them were going to another state. So, that's a big red flag. If they're used car salesmen, like, if they're chasing you to get you to buy a bird, if they start calling you friend right away, that's crazy. If they refuse video calls, but they start sending you a lot of pictures, well, them are pictures that they downloaded off somebody else's profile. Because, this show, most of us here are rooster men. And let me ask y'all a question. If somebody was fixing to give you $1,500 for a trio plus shipping, are you going to FaceTime them from the pen and let them see it? Probably. Because you're proud of your birds. Now, I will say this. If you're going to buy a $1,500 trio, if you're going to buy a $200 trio, don't waste nobody's time. Do you have a picture of this? Do you have a picture of that? Da-da-da-da-da. No. The birds are what they are. They look like how they look. You're either gonna buy them or you don't. Don't waste a person's time on that type of stuff, because that I feel like there should be a Facebook group for those people where they get called out, and for being tire kickers. I'm sad to say that it's not just imposters. I had a big time breeder who sold Sid Taylor's take my money order and never sent a feather. True story. It's been happening for years. And I will say that there's dishonest people everywhere, sadly. So, yeah. Hey, Texas. Welcome to the show. Let's see. Honest Citizen Review says, I only let close friends in my yard. I usually ask what they're interested in, and I'll move them to scratch pens in my front yard. Too many feds around these days, and sharks can't trust. I get that.
Yeah, that's true.
And I'll say this. I don't have people to my farm, period. Um
But you're not selling birds.
even even like I have sold, yard mutts, but you don't come to my yard and pick it out, because I don't know how you take if I don't know you, I don't know how you take care of your chickens. I don't know what your chickens got. And in the name of biosecurity, you ain't coming to my house. Period. Like, I don't even want my kids have one of their friends has chickens. You can go over their house, but they ain't coming to mine. Sorry. Because they're chicken people. They're gonna want to walk around the yard and look at them. And I don't know what they got. So I don't do it. I have sent people pictures. I've done FaceTime, and there's a Piggly Wiggly 3 miles up the road from my house, and that's where I'll meet you. And most of the time, once a bird leaves my house, it don't come back unless it's in my care the whole time. Bought my 4-way straight from the source. My Dom pair I bought online from Bobby Fairchild. Look, Bobby Fairchild is another one. Folks have been setting up fake profiles using his name, his farm, a different phone number, left and right. And, he'll flat out tell you, call his wife or call him, and he gives you both numbers. And he'll talk to you, he'll FaceTime you. Now, depending on what's going on, he may not do farm visits. He shuts them off from time to time. But, that's the thing. But, talk to him in person. That's the best way to do it. There's some people that they don't sell birds to anybody. When I first got my birds from Richard Kelly, I don't know. I really don't know when I first got on the phone with the man that he was going to send them to me. Now, we talked for about an hour and a half, the first conversation we had, and he sent me a really nice selection. I got really lucky on that because I got more than what I asked for. But you should always talk to him. Tell them that your dogs like to jump on people and that you don't want their clothes to get dirty. I mean, that works.
Yeah.
Mine, they want a hug from me, and they'll go up to my toddler and, man, they'll get right up next to her and love on them. But he's right. People, I tell people that I got 2 dogs that weigh 150 pounds, and they're like, what? Oh, I ain't getting out of the car. You ain't coming over. Um, oh, another one. Reverse image searches. And nowadays, you can take a picture, stick it in Google, and hit search, and it'll tell you where it really came from. You can even use that to find the location. So yeah, do that. Look at the person's we talked about before, looking at their profile. If you found them in a group, that's really good because you can actually click on the person's name in a group and see how long they've been there. Have they been in there for a long time or have they been in there 5 minutes? You know, that's a thing. And when you verify people, I mean, stalk their profile, look at it, find somebody on there that you actually know and contact that person directly and say, hey, I'm wanting to buy birds from so and so. I found this profile on Facebook. I'm going to send you a link to it. Is that their real profile? And if they say, who is that? Well, then you know that the person you called also had a profile made with their name on it because a lot of times they will do that to establish their own connections and comments and that kind of crap just so they can get your money. Um, Ask a lot of questions, specific questions, but again, don't waste the person's time. Like you ask Dwayne for a picture, he's gonna send you a picture. You ask Dwayne for 50 more, he's gonna tell you to get in the truck, come to his house, look at the birds, or get off his phone. And I can respect that because he ain't gotta sell you them birds. Scammers will want to send you a lot of pictures. And if you look in them pictures and the background don't match up, or it looks like desert in one picture because it's bare dirt, and then it looks like Jeff's background in another, probably not the same rooster yard. Um, Dwayne said he got blocked yesterday for asking a peddler is the bird he had posted for sale still had mites. Picture he posted, the tail was eat up with feather mites. That's kind of funny. They don't want you to think about that. There's a lot of peddlers out there, and hey, if they've got some birds from somebody that cost them a crap ton of money, and they can't say the person's name, you got to question the legitimacy of the claim because some of them, the name's very obvious, and the person's very well known for having very good birds. So, yeah. Now, Tuck right here, he stood at the gate with a notebook to get his first four-way hens begging. But that's because he knew that person had good birds. And that person probably never, like, they didn't have to sell birds. So, yeah. And I'll agree with that. Richard does people really well. He once he found out exactly who I was and that he knew my son, because my son may or may not have got in a round shaped place and picked up and dropped chickens at the age of 13 with him, in the vicinity. There we go. Is that vague enough? But yeah, there's a lot of them out there. Report them. Don't stay silent. And look, I know cockers especially love to keep their secrets and how they get ahead. But guys, don't keep this a secret. You don't want to get screwed, and you don't want nobody else getting screwed. So if you find out somebody's a scammer, make them famous. screenshot it, post it all over. If you get scammed, be man enough to say, I got screwed. Don't buy from this person. Um, you know, don't be afraid to help somebody out with that. And if a person's selling you birds and he says they came from Dwayne, simple. Call him and ask him. I had somebody, um, they sent me a message late one night and they're like, hey, I bought one of your birds off somebody. I said, really? I was like, yeah. The leg band says double R. Really? And this person's like 700-800 miles away. I said, send me a picture of that leg band. They did. Like 5 minutes later, dude sends me a picture, and it's late at night, but you could see that he wasn't by himself because somebody else was holding a phone with the light. And then because the picture looked like the light was over here and the camera was here. Um, I said, I looked at it and I was like, that don't look right. And then I looked over and at my records and saw I had used that leg band, but that leg band was on a Rhode Island Red, not a Kelso. So I told the guy, I was like, unless that bird is on a Rhode Island Red, that ain't my bird. He said, what are you talking about? I said, that leg band was put on a Rhode Island Red and I sold it to somebody. This was before I got my really good reds, but it was in a group that I sold to somebody that I had the date and I know what they did to them. So yeah, that's another reason why keep records. I haven't always been as great as I should be about keeping records, but part of what I plan on doing this coming year is keeping more records on my birds. My birds, before they leave my place, will have a wing band and a leg band, and they'll be different and they'll mean different things. But with that information, it can tell me when the bird was born or hatched, whatever, what family it came from, what pen it came from, everything. I'll be able to know with the information off those two bands. So, Marky Birds, take note. The internet leveled the field. Everyone has access to good fowl. Good folks like Jeff, if you'll listen, will teach you how to feed it for optimum performance. Yep. But Gates, that's one of the biggest problems. A lot of folks don't want to listen. And we've come to accept that.
Well, Kerry, didn't you know all feed should only cost $20 to $22 a bag, right? No matter.
I agree.
Yeah.
It should.
Well,
It should. Actually,
there's
it
no feed
should
out
cost
there, right?
it
There's
should
no
cost
feed out
$12
there.
a bag.
Well, no, it shouldn't. If you want your farmers to actually make a living, right, then no, that feed should cost a lot more than $12 a bag.
And I'm
If you
glad you
want,
said that.
if you want American grown grain,
Yep.
right, high quality, somebody who cares about how it's grown, right,
Yep.
you cannot buy a high quality bag of feed for under 25 bucks. I don't give a shit who you are, where you're at, it don't matter. Okay. If that bag of feed for 50 pounds is under 25 bucks a bag, there's something missing, or there's a lot of bullshit in it.
It's usually the latter because,
Well, it
they
can
like
be
their good hard
right.
pellets.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah. So why do y'all think, and stick this in the comments? Let's see what all kind of answers we get. But why do scammers target poultry buyers? Jeff, why do you think they do that?
Well, they don't target just poultry buyers. I mean, they take advantage of anyone and everyone.
Yeah, but there's a certain thing that they're
But poultry breeders,
gambling on.
poultry breeders, not just game fowl, because we see this on the other side. You know, people would
Oh
show
yeah,
poultry, yeah,
all
right,
kinds of poultry.
and everybody's looking for an edge. Everybody's looking to, you know, get a step ahead, right?
Hmm.
And then if they see, a cock or a stag or a trio or something at a price that sounds too good to be true, I mean,
Hmm.
come on, right? Come on.
If it sounds too
Help.
good to be true, it usually is.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
like Dwayne says, they cheat. They want something for nothing.
like John Anthony Marks selling his Marks mugs and what he had going on down there, right? Nothing left the farm, like nothing left the farm for less than 1,000 a bird, right? And then if you were buying trios or pairs or whatever, you know, but yeah, he was like 800 to 1,000, eight or probably 750, 800 for a stag back in the day. That was 3 years ago.
Hmm.
Now Billy Scriber has all of his breeding stock. So if you want a true Mark's mug, okay, Billy Scriber,
That's
pretty
it.
game
Pretty
file,
game file.
pretty game file. That's the only place you're going to get 100% true Mark's mug. Okay,
And look, I'll say this: Billy's a nice guy.
Billy is a heck of a nice guy.
Look,
He'd
that
talk your
one
back up.
day I'm minding my own business, and I get a text message from him, and it's a video. His kids help him do his social media because he ain't a real computer person. But without being asked, nothing. He actually did a video about how he makes his feed and how he mixes it with the supplement, and he talks about what it does and how it improves and how it makes his birds look. And he found out about it when he got Mark's mugs. John had some bags and he gave him those too. It's like, look, you need to do this because this is what it does. And I thought that was pretty awesome.
It was. It is.
Let's see. My guy in Mexico was sifting out the powder of my custom pellet. I had to explain they can eat it all. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I don't understand that.
I, I don't know.
But
You
and here's the thing.
crazy.
I'll say this: whether you put a bag on a pallet and ship it on a truck, guys, if you don't think pellets get squished and make that powder, all right. So they put 5 bags per level on a pallet, and if it's a 50-pound bag, there's 40 bags. So that means there's 8 layers of 5. And if that bag's on the bottom, it's got 7 layers on top of it. Well, if there's just 7 bags straight on top of it, that's 350 pounds doing this with it every time it hits a bump.
Mm.
That ain't dust and crap. That's squished pellets. Now, depending on what the feed is, it may be crap, but your pellets gonna get squished. If I make pellets and people buy the supplement in the pellet form and they say, man, there was powder in the bag. Well, you know what? I'm sorry, but you live halfway around the world. And the only way to get it to you within a month and a half, remotely affordable, is through the postal service. And I wonder if they, like, in some areas play soccer with it and some areas play kickball with the dang packages when they get bored. It happens. So yeah,
Yeah.
they do eat that powder too. Um I actually have a customer that told me for $30 a bag you can get anything you want in Mexico because that's what his code he's charging to take it over there for him.
Yep.
And hey, you know what? That's probably the only safe way to get it. And if you think about, what you're doing and who you're using, make sure you know your coyote. Um, why do scammers refuse video calls? That should be obvious. Because,
They ain't who they think they ain't who they said they was.
right, if somebody said they was John Marks and they do a video call and they have a total different complexion and there's sand on the ground, they're probably not in Texas. So, yeah. I'm so old. A bag of Gamecock 16% feed was 5 to 5.50 in the mid late 90s. Same meal told me 2025. They sell by far more game fowl chicken feed than cattle or swine. I mean, I could believe that. My pigs love chicken feed. Let's see here. By the way, that feed is 20 plus in 2025 that is endorsed by Bobby Fairchild. Anyone care to guess whose it is? I know whose it is.
Whose is it?
It's somebody that there's a lot of controversy behind her.
Oh,
But that should be enough to give it away.
that feed. Okay.
And I will say this, guys. If y'all have ever listened to anything that we've ever talked about on some of our nutrition shows, number one, search far and wide to find a copy of that feed tag online. And if you get lucky enough to find it, read it. Look at it. You'll still wonder why it's $20 a bag. And I like this that Frank says. I always go in person. If I can't see the bird move around and hold it in my hands, I ain't buying it.
Yep. That's the way it ought to be.
If I'm gonna spend $1,500 on a trio, I'm gonna go get it. Heck, I drove 10 and a half, 11 hours round trip, stayed in a hotel overnight to go pick up birds for a friend of mine because they needed to be picked up. And I went to Dwayne's house and we're 9-10 hours away from each other for it because I don't trust the postal system. And I know too many people that have shipped birds and the bird be light as a feather, stiff as a board when it arrives because it got lost. Well, when it gets lost, I don't feel right going to the breeder and say, hey, I want a refund or I want you to ship me another bird because mine got here not breathing because the post office did God only knows what with it for 7 days. But if you see the person in person, you're not going to get scammed. And yes, I did go to your place. Actually, I met your brother not long after your son had a really horrific wreck at a poultry show and got my puppy. And Lucy is now a year old. A heifer weighs about 150 pounds. And she does really good at keeping people out of my yard. Because when she pops up on top of the gate and Buddy pops up right by her, literally Amazon drivers don't even want to get out. So, yeah. If somebody says something about overnight shipping, is that a red flag on birds?
Can you ship anything overnight? I don't know anything anymore that moves in one day, 24 hours, without a horrible. You're going to pay more for shipping than the bird.
Yeah, you'll pay a lot more. Um, but
Nice.
yes, overnight shipping is a red flag because the post office don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Um, and if y'all ever noticed, if any of y'all have been scammed, you notice the person was always in a rush. Hey, we need to do this. We need to do this so I can get it boxed up. I need a deposit. Blah 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 blah. Um, urgency typically stops people from verifying that they are legit. So that's why they're doing that. Let's see. Oh, what if they ask you to pay with a gift card?
Yeah. Yeah. That for sure. That one's really bad. So
Or crypto? Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. You ain't never seeing that again.
Um, if somebody asks for that, and I'm gonna be honest, if you've ever sent some money through Cash App that you didn't mean to and you try to get it back, man, you can click the button to ask for a refund, but you're at the mercy of whoever you accidentally sent the money to give you a refund because customer service at cashapp.com, they ain't doing crap for you. And they'll flat out tell you to read their terms of service.
Oh,
Now,
you could actually get a live body on the phone to talk to somebody at Cash App.
no, they ain't got a phone number. You just email them.
So
Or hey,
most
do like Billy did. Billy got somebody that he knew personally to haul the bird for him. Or actually, they didn't know each other at the time. It was a friend of a friend. Got him to get the bird for him. Oh, here's this one's good, Ronnie. What about being at the airport holding your rooster for insurance?
there's all kinds of stupid excuses I've heard.
Um,
Most
has
GameStop people
anybody?
I deal in cash,
Yeah.
right? So everywhere I've ever been with a large amount of GameStop people, it's always cash, uh, or money order. But
Now I
anyway,
will. This is. I will say this. If you buy from Dwayne, he wants you to pay in cash out.
okay,
But there's about 50 different ways to verify he is who he says he is. And if somebody says that they're Dwayne and you're going to buy some birds from them and you're going to trade chickens, that's a lie. And, when I saw him post this, I knew this without even him posting it. You going to send him cash or guns?
well, he says Cash App, but
Well, yeah. I
cash.
mean, he uses Cash
I'm
App
sure he'll take cash.
religiously.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm sure he would accept cash.
yeah. Let's see. I quarantined the fowl in my yard on a live call for no less than 10 days. They're wormed and deloused going in to make dang sure they're healthy when they're shipped. Yeah. Because if you don't make dang sure they're healthy and that bird takes more than 2 or 3 days to get where it's going, you might have a problem. And look, this right here, this is a red flag. Paid for the rooster. They ship it, got halfway there and held up for insurance.
They didn't ship it, and it didn't get
No,
halfway there. Once it
because
starts shipping, it's going. So
the only way to
that's a crock of
legally
shit.
ship a bird that's live in the US is through the post office. And they ain't making you buy insurance on jiggity jack. And especially offering you insurance after it's halfway to its destination. They ain't doing that. That's a lie. It's a scam.
Yep.
Let's see. Should a legit breeder welcome verification? I'm gonna tell you, Billy Fairchild, Pretty Game Fowl, Billy Scriber, Frank Bradley, anybody, they're gonna want you to do it. Or if you say, "Hey, I need to verify this," all right, bye. Do what you got to do because they don't care. They got people lined up to buy birds from them. So you either buy or you don't. And, some people say, well, if I walk away, that's rude. No, it's smart. And last thing I want to leave y'all, because we're at our hour, if something feels sketchy, probably is.
Just walk away.
If it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's not a goat. Sorry. It's a duck. See y'all next week.
All right. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
We would like to take a moment to thank our friends over at ShowPro Farm Supply for their generous sponsorship and support. Whether you're raising heritage poultry, show poultry, game fowl, or other species of livestock, ShowPro offers custom formulated feeds and supplements to help your animals reach their full genetic potential. And they don't stop at livestock. They also carry Alumacoop's movable poultry housing, plus a full line of Fertrell farm and garden products, so your whole homestead gets what it needs to thrive. Check out ShowPro Farm Supply, where nutrition meets know-how.